these tradwives on social media are going to be the end of y'all. They are selling you a life and a dream that they do not even live. Because to be a traditional wife, your husband is taking care of you 100%. The very fact that they are on social media means what? What class? They have social media money. Means they don't depend on their husband. Means if that husband leaves them today, they will be fine by tomorrow. Okay? They are selling you a dream that they are not even living. You have to face the reality that depending on a man finding you attractive for your livelihood and your kids' livelihoods is insane. Have you seen a trad wife over 50 promoting that shit on this app? Every older woman that you will ever talk to that has had that traditional life will tell you what? Get your education, get your degree, get your own money. They're not pulling that out of their ass. You can, if you see any of these trad wives that get divorced, nothing was in their name because these men are not stupid. These men find you attractive, so they're going to keep you around until you become a burden to them. And it is so easy to become a burden to a man because he doesn't care about you. Please, for the love of God, do not have these influencers that make social media money let you be convinced that a traditional wife or a trad wife life is ideal for you. Please.
Morning, I asked my toddlers what they wanted for breakfast, and they both said cereal. So cereal it was, and we got started right away.
Have you ever asked yourself why it is that tradwives and other conservative female influencers who promote traditional gender roles have all the time in the world to make cereal from scratch, but somehow never seem to record themselves doing essential domestic labor like vacuuming, trying to get a particularly nasty stain out of a shirt, or scrubbing a toilet? When they are performing labor in these videos, it's always something that, strictly speaking, is unnecessary, and they are doing it the hardest way possible. Because the answer is that it is for show. It is all a performance. In his remarkably prescient 1899 book, The Theory of the Leisure Class, Thorstein Veblen coined the terms conspicuous consumption and conspicuous leisure, suggesting that those with wealth and power, no longer having any economic production to contribute themselves, instead contribute to the production and consumption of leisure. And those consumption practices, those leisure activities, are conspicuous precisely because that is how the leisure class signals their difference from the working class, signals their exceptionality and their superiority. They're not better than us because they can make their children cereal from scratch. They're better than us because they are so wealthy and well off that they have nothing more important to worry about. And if we were to ever see tradwives perform essential productive domestic labor, or see their husbands perform any domestic labor at all, that would in fact mark them as failures as tradwives. As Veblen wrote in 1899, again, he could have written it yesterday, application to productive labor is a mark of poverty and subjection. It becomes inconsistent with a reputable standing in the community. Because these videos are not instructional. They are maybe inspirational, but they are always performative. This is not real labor. This is symbolic labor. It is nothing more than social signaling that this woman and her family belong to the leisure class. And it is also how she builds and signals her value if you are the sort of person who operates within an exchange economy that assigns high and low value to human beings. Because her value to her husband is not in her ability to care for the home or care for the children, right? Anyone who is able to engage in this level of conspicuous leisure has somebody that they are paying to do all of those things. No, her value is instead in her ability to perform the role of trophy wife, and to be the ultimate realization and personification of her husband's socioeconomic prowess. Because tradwives are conspicuous consumers, yes, but it is the audience's consumption of tradwives that truly makes them valuable to their husbands.
This cooking and cleaning thing isn't bad. I just don't understand why women wanted to work.
Cut this shit out. You are working. This framing that there are women who work and there are women who don't work because men have gifted them the opportunity to stay home and cook and clean for them, you're both working. It is fine to want to stay home and do those things, but that is not a gift of no labor. You are both working, and when you're doing it exclusively in the home, you're working with no rights, no protection, no safety net. You're providing services that if you weren't around, that man would have to pay multiple professionals to get, because it's work, it's valuable work. But your job security in doing that is entirely contingent on that man deciding to keep you around. As your youth and your beauty, two things that are very protective of that job security, to a certain point, start to fade. Just because it feels fulfilling and free to not go to work every day does not mean you are free. All of the comments on this video are like, this is feminism. Making a choice of the life you want to live is feminism. No, feminism is collective liberation for all women. Feminism is women having the resources to not have to depend on men. Feminism is freedom from oppression, and freedom from oppression is having choices. Without money coming in that is yours, if that relationship ends, your job ends. You'll have no money, you'll have no resume, you'll have no references, no roof over your head, no unemployment check, you will have no choices but to find another man to support you. You need to make this man be paying you for the services you're providing as if you had a real job, so that if that marriage ends, you have something to fall back on. Say, if I forgo working outside of the home to stay home and take care of this family, I get this % of everything if we break up. If he says no to some type of agreement like that, then him allowing you to not work is not about letting you have the life that you've always dreamed of. It's about making you dependent on him and exploiting your labor. I'm rewatching Mad Men right now, and I just got to the point where Betty wants to divorce Don because he's been lying and cheating and gaslighting her. And she's been a homemaker for their 2 kids for 10 years. She's also been exploiting the labor of Black women to help her with that, but she has had no work and no money of her own. She goes to a lawyer and she's like, you know, what can I do? And he's like, you should stay married. You'll get no money. He'll probably get the kids because he has all of the resources, and she cannot leave that marriage until she has another man lined up that is willing to fully support her. And she was a rich woman. Her husband was worth millions of dollars, but none of it was hers. And that's the part that you don't see with all these tradwife light videos. It looks lovely and empowering and free to not be some loser feminist who has to go to work until their man changes their mind, or until you change your mind, like, oh my God. And then you will have nothing. He will have all the money you allowed him to make in his career, and he'll get everything he needs from the next woman in line itching to take your place because she was brainwashed by tradwife shit on the internet.
And it never bothered me once that my financial security was dependent on that man being in love with me. I never realized that him liking me or not liking me or finding me sexy or attractive or interesting determined whether or not my children could eat, whether or not I could buy myself a fucking
That was a former tradwife who was talking about how her whole financial livelihood and her life in general was dependent on her husband, and how that all fell apart when he decided to divorce her because she had not gone to college. She didn't have anything in her name. She didn't have her own bank account. She didn't have her own checking account. She didn't have any business stuff on her resume that she could utilize to get a job when he decided to leave. And I'm seeing more and more and more tradwives coming out and talking about this very thing, that they did it. They were in it for the long haul. They birthed 4, 5, 6 kids for that man to decide one day he was going to up and leave. Because like she said, he didn't love her anymore. He didn't find her attractive anymore. There wasn't anything there anymore. So he held all the financial power and decided to leave, and he took that with him, and he took that away. Nobody plans on getting divorced when they get married, but you have to cover your own ass. You have to look out for you because nobody else will. So if you're not married yet and you have an idea that you want to stay at home and raise children, wonderful. Get a prenup. Put it in there that you are to be paid X amount of money a month or a year, like a salaried employee. You get benefits, you get 401k, you get retirement, so that you at least have something to fall back on if you don't have any time while you're raising children to do a side hustle, to work, to bring in your own income, or even make sure you have your own bank account where you're taking out money to put aside for you in the off case that something like this were to happen. It is never a safe situation for women to be solely financially dependent on another human being in their life, but especially a man who can change his mind at the drop of a hat and take everything out from under you and take everything away.
I know I'm about to make a lot of people very upset with me, but I want to talk about the tradwife movement. And I'm calling it a movement because I want to be very clear that the tradwife or traditional wife lifestyle, nothing wrong with it. Literally nothing wrong with it. If you want to live in that life, perfect. That's amazing. There is nothing wrong with the tradwife lifestyle. I want to make that very clear from the beginning. The issue is the tradwife movement, and I'm going to get into that. So tradwife or traditional wife, you've probably seen the videos. It's these women, they're usually in dresses, they have their hair done, and they're having these really like aesthetically pleasing videos of them baking bread and, you know, doing floral arrangements, cooking meals for their husband, talking about how their husband is their provider and, you know, their duties in the home with their children. And it's all beautiful and it's calming and you're like, oh, that's so fantastic. And again, nothing wrong with it, surface level. But then you usually go to the caption and it's talking about, this is your duty. This is, giving your best self to your family and your children, that your husband deserves a wife that's going to, be appreciative of everything he does. And then you're like, oh, this is getting a little bit judgy. And this is getting a little bit like, holier than thou. And then you see the comment sections and these women are interacting with other women. And there's women in there going, I haven't paid a bill in months, or, I've never made a car payment for. I don't even know how to do those things. My husband takes care of everything. And then you're like, uh-oh, you don't know basic life skills. Uh-oh, like that's a red flag. And like, it just kind of gets a little more like culty is not the right word, but I'm really not sure what it is. But it just kind of becomes more of this, I'm living the correct life. And if you're not living this life, you're doing something wrong kind of vibe. And that gives me the ick. Let's talk about for example, the women that don't know the basic life skills. So these are the women that are acting like it's a flex to be financially illiterate. And of course, it's the internet. I don't know their lives, but the women that are saying, oh, my husband takes care of all the finances. I don't even know what we paid for this, or I have no idea how to even do that, or I don't even have our bank login. I'm like, ooh, I hope that's not true, because that's really terrible. If he drops dead tomorrow, can you take care of your family? If he drops dead tomorrow, do you know what his life insurance policy is, how to access it, who to call? Do you know how to do these things? Can you get into your bank account easily to access funds? Like, those things are really alarming to me. And the fact that women are acting like that's a flex reflects really negative on the tradwife lifestyle. Like, I don't think it's cute to not know basic life skills. We should be honestly teaching those in high school. So that's my first thing, is that one particular piece really, really rubs me the wrong way. Also, these videos, not everybody's life looks like that 24/7. I don't think anybody's life looks like that 24/7. It's not a realistic view of the life. It's not a transparent view of the life, I guess you could say. So when you're making videos, it's okay to just show the wonderful, beautiful parts, like if that's your thing. But if you're going to push that lifestyle onto others, you better be transparent and you better give the full 360-degree look at that life, because that's not fair. That's not fair to push this lifestyle and act like this is obtainable when in reality, it's not. It's not, but you are going to act like it is. And then when moms try to live up to that lifestyle and realize it's impossible, they're going to feel really bad about themselves. Or when a man marries a woman and expects her to live up to that unattainable standard and she doesn't, he's going to think something's wrong with her, when in reality, it's nothing wrong with her. She's not doing anything wrong. It's just a fake 2-second view into somebody's life. It's not real. But a lot of these women are putting in the comments like, yes, this is how we live every day. This is normal. And it's like, no, you don't bake a sourdough every day. That's a 2-day process, first of all. But it's like, you're not baking bread and doing crafts and, doing your hair makeup. You're not doing that every day. Sorry, you're not. In today's world, you're just not. And also, I don't know if I'd want this perfect little fairy tale life. Like, that sounds so boring, personally, to me. But I'm not sure how to really explain it. I just feel like the videos are very deceiving, and that can lead to women feeling really bad about themselves when they can't live up to it, or men expecting unrealistic expectations of women. Hopefully that makes sense. My third thing that just kind of rubs me the wrong way about it, the feminist movement, let's just talk about it. Women fought for years to be seen as equal to men, and we're still not. But the right to vote, the right to go to school, the right to, hold a job, be in public office, et cetera, et cetera. And it just kind of feels like the tradwife movement, again, not the lifestyle itself, but the movement I'm talking about, is trying to bring women back. It's trying to put women back in those traditional roles that 100+ years ago were okay, but they're not okay anymore. Our life, everybody talks about the 1950s housewife. First of all, those women, a lot of them were incredibly depressed and incredibly unhappy in their lives, and there were a lot of affairs going on. So I never understood why people idealize that. But let's talk about that. That was almost 100 years ago. Life is so different. Cost of living is different. Responsibilities are different. The mental health crisis is here. There's so much going on in today's world that lifestyle just doesn't fit anymore. It just doesn't. And the fact that we fought so long for women to have access to things, that we're now telling them, oh, don't worry about that. Let the men take care of it. Or don't worry about that. You don't need it to be happy. It just seems kind of icky to me. Like, let women make that decision on their own, whether they want to pursue those things or not. Let women decide, do I want to go to college? Do I want to have a career? Or do I want to stay at home? Do I want to get married at 18? Do I want to get married at 30? Let women make those decisions on their own. You can share your life and you can say, this is what my life looks like, but don't say this is what my life looks like and this is the correct way. This is what my life looks like and this is how you should be living yours, because my life doesn't fit your life. Okay. My life is not a one size fits all for every person in the world. And I just feel like it's just weird to not want women to reach their full potential. And again, if you're a trad wife, I'm not saying you haven't reached your full potential, but there's women out there that might want to explore those things, but then feel like, oh, that's not feminine, or, oh, I shouldn't because, you know, my future husband wouldn't want me, because that's definitely the vibe that these videos are giving. And that's disappointing, because for my daughter, I want her to do whatever the F she wants to do. I want her to reach for the stars. I want her to try everything once and then find, you know, what works for her. I want her to have every opportunity available, every door opened. I would never try to limit her in any way, shape, or form. And that's what this movement feels like it is to me, is it's trying to limit women. And I don't know, I just don't get it. So I hope I'm articulating this well enough. I'm sure I'm going to have people come for me in the comments. But again, there's nothing wrong with the lifestyle if that's what you chose. My issue lies in pushing it on others or acting like it is the correct way, because there's no right way to mother. There's no right way to be a wife. There's no right way to be a woman. There's just different ways. So anyways, I hope that makes sense.
Push the emphasis that the Western world has on an 18-year-old girl uprooting her life, moving away from her family to go to college.
Yeah, and that's the best thing a young woman could do for herself. No hate to this creator, I actually follow her. She posts content on being a trad wife, but I will analyze this video on why I believe it is teaching young women to be ignorant and codependent.
We are sold this idea that we are going to find fulfillment and happiness when we isolate and separate ourselves from our family to live in a community of other young people, 18-year-olds who have never been on their own before either.
Which teaches you how to be self-sufficient, not codependent on somebody, to live in a community with different perspectives, viewpoints, walks of life, and getting out of your bubble.
Natural desire of independence and freedom is normal when you're in your late teens and early adulthood. However, having a family with values and morals and structure to guide us,
that screams I'm either incapable or too scared to make my own decisions, and I have to have somebody tell me what to do, whether it's my family or a man who I marry. And these so-called morals that she's claiming all parents have is a flawed idea to believe. Our parents are not perfect, and you will never know that you grew up in a toxic environment until you step out of your comfort zone and leave the household at a young age to know that that was not normal. And you will never discover or realize that your normalcy was actually not okay if you never get out of that bubble and run straight into marriage at a young age.
And the amount of happening in these universities.
Now here comes that fear-mongering and scared mentality. I have never done any during college. I haven't done any post-college. I wasn't even having you-know-what during college, and I swear to that. Why do people who've never experienced college life assume that everybody is doing no? But I'm sure this is what they teach in small towns to young, impressionable girls to keep them ignorant and to stay in that bubble.
I was petrified to go to another state or another country.
And there it is. You were petrified. It's not good to teach young women standards based on fear or your personal insecurities about whatever. There is nothing wrong at all with wanting to stay with family, to stay close to home. But if you're going to admit that you were petrified to do anything else, that just shows that you just had fear, and this is projection onto other people. And if you read her caption, she admits that she had the opportunity to go to New York City and attend the New York City Film Academy, which is amazing. But she couldn't do it because she was scared and petrified, even though her own father had encouraged her to go. Is this what you're trying to teach young women?
The problem is not girls going to college and getting an education, right? It's not the classroom. It's the environment of the universities.
If you are that scared about the environment of colleges and universities, you are not going to do well in the real world as an independent adult. If this is what you see as peak danger, wake up.
I'm an advocate for community college, or even going to a university in the community that your family's in.
That's how you keep women ignorant with their small town views and to never learn about life outside of their bubble.
Society wants to separate young influential people from their family, from their structure.
I really don't understand how some people live in La La Land and they think that parents and family always mean structure, or that whatever your parents are telling you is actually good for you. But then again, when you never explore life, this is what you think. That mom and dad is always right, and that mom and dad can't be toxic, can't be controlling, and can't want to, push their own ideals into you when they know it's wrong themselves.
I want to say I'm not telling anybody how to live, This is just food for thought, and I promote my lifestyle. I promote traditional marriage.
And I'm happy she made this video because different perspectives is important for engagement in conversations about life, especially for young women. But I will say that many times these trad wives teach young women how to stay ignorant, codependent on men, lack self-discovery, and never learning how to get out of their bubble and think for themselves. I agree with being a traditional wife. What I don't agree with is teaching young women this.
Alright, I saw this video like most people several days ago, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it since. This video really struck a chord with me because what happened to me. I am 27. I got divorced at 26 after I had done the trad wife thing. I got married at 19. I had 3 babies, and I was a stay-at-home mom. I dropped out of college. I didn't have a job. So at 20, we separated when I was 25. So at 25 years old, I had nothing. I didn't have an education. I didn't have a work history. Because of those 2 things, when we went to court over custody of our kids, he was able to point to those. He asked me for the divorce. He fought for custody of the kids. Given I had stayed home and taken care of these kids as my full-time situation for 6 years. And he was able to say, you know, she doesn't have a job. She doesn't have an education. She lives with her mom and dad. She can't take care of these kids, and he got primary custody of our kids. And so every video that I see now of trad wives, and people idealizing this lifestyle, it makes my heart break. It like hits a chord with me because I did everything right. I did all the things you were supposed to do. Stay home and raise your babies and do all of that. And in the end, I got left out on my ass with nothing. I did not get my kids. I did not have a job. It was very difficult for me to get a job when you don't have a work history or an education. It's very hard to get a job that can pay your bills when you do that. And so when I first saw this video, I literally have not been able to stop thinking about it because this is real life. This can happen to you. You know, thinking, oh, he's my husband, whatever, may not protect you in the long run. Like, when you have nothing. So this is like a PSA to women that like that can happen to you. I know there's a lot of misconceptions out in the world that like, oh, moms always get custody, judges default to moms. Well, the fact of the matter is, like, if you have just been a mom this whole time and he fights for those kids, he puts up a fight, he has everything in his favor because he has the financial means to raise children and you don't. When he puts you out, like what happened to me. So just think about that, ladies. Think about the reality of that because it's literally heartbreaking and it's so hard to build your life up after that.
So let me tell you why this trad wife stuff drives me crazy. Before I do, this woman is teaching her daughter to become a homemaker and explains that bearing children will be your greatest joy and that you should serve your husband. So that's traditional, right? Well, the thing about trad wives is it isn't all that traditional. People have this belief that history was filled with wives who just listened, submissive women, and absolutely, there were lots of legal strictures, and I talk about them often here. Women's bodily autonomy has always been at question in the patriarchy. Legally, lots of strictures. But then when you look at it practically, within the strictures of the legal system, many women had a lot of autonomy and a lot of soft power. Now, royal women had the least autonomy in some ways because they would be the creator of the next royal man. But for many, many women in much of the history of humanity, their only job was not creating children or serving their husband. Many of them had a lot of roles outside of the home. They often worked taking up the family business just as their brothers did. And so the tradwife that these tradwives are trying to create is basically a 50s construct. And this is even a reaction to men coming back from World War II and being upset that it turns out women can do their jobs. So there's nothing traditional about this. There's nothing really historical about this. It is an artificial look back at history where some women want to go to a past that never existed, which is particularly annoying because those women in the past, when you read their stories, were pretty excited about the things they were able to do. When you read about women who worked during World War II and then lost their jobs because men came back from the war, they weren't thinking, oh, I'm so glad I get to be a tradwife now. They were thinking, I'm so sad I lost this opportunity. And that woman is closing down opportunities for her daughter so that she can live in a past that never existed.